Dearly beloved, as we gather today to reflect and celebrate the life of my father, Charlie, I've struggled to find the perfect words to aptly honor him. In my eyes, my dad was a titan. He was the best man I've ever known. He was infinite. To all of those whom I haven't yet met, I'm CJ. I'm the middle child between my Atamara and Hopper. And most importantly, I'm the best looking of the three. Although I have yet to get anyone to confirm this, except my wife. First, Dad would be sure to remind me to thank everyone for taking the time to be here today. So I'll start by doing that. Thank you, sincerely and graciously, to those from the Philippines, those from the West Coast, from Virginia, from Hawaii. Hey, Francis. To the two-time winning championship team that my dad coached and loved, to his fraternity brothers, to all those joining us via live stream, and of course, to his family and friends from everywhere else. Thank you for being with us here today. I didn't know he actually knew this many people. A few weeks ago, Dad visited me in a dream. I was with Mom in an Airbnb that we rented in Scotland for his birthday. And his dreams don't make sense. We knew he had passed, but he was there. He came out of the room. He was tired and weak. I was preparing dinner, and he said, "Why don't we just order some food to spend a little more time together?" Over the last 40 days, I've been thinking about our time together, how I thought we'd have more of it. More laughs, more whiskey and cigars on the porch, more FaceTime calls. But I also thought about the time that we did have together. And throughout that time, I had the pleasure and honor of getting to know the depths of his soul. He had this way of teaching. He taught us to do things before we were ready. One day he goes, "Siege, it's time for you to start mowing the lawn." I was 9, and I could barely turn the lawnmower. Another day he grabbed me and said, "Siege, I'm going to teach you how to change the oil." Despite the fact that I had just had surgery on my right wrist, and we had to cover my cast with a plastic bag and do everything with my non-dominant hand. Together, us 3 boys painted the house, inside and outside, laid down the wood flooring, and changed the car brakes. Even though my brother and I never had any idea of what we were doing. And through all this teaching, I was still a subpar student. I once asked him, "Dad, are you ever disappointed that Hopper and I aren't more handy?" He looks at me and says, "Yeah, you guys are idiots." One of the things I loved most about my dad was he found so much joy in the little things. He was generous with his laughter. One day I call him and he says, "No, Siege, we just had dinner. It was awesome, man. It's called Boto." Said, "That's awesome." Because I loved all the food that my dad loved. I said, "What is that? Is that Caribbean?" He says, "No, it's Olive Garden. You buy one and you take one home, and they still give you the free breadsticks." I just couldn't help but laugh. When we hung up, I thought to myself, wow, what a good deal. He didn't opine much on politics or religion. He often shied away from giving too much life advice. But every so often, he'd share these insights. And they are the night stars that guide me through my wayfinding. Be careful, be mindful of the things between you and the ground, he'd say. So I kept up with my tires. And it's probably why Hopper and I have so many shoes. When you start a basketball game, try to take the first shot. It'll help settle your teammates. He once said, doctors, priests, and teachers are some of the most honorable professions. So naturally, I work in marketing. But I still hold to a dream that I'll teach one day. And I loved when he would tell me farming metaphors. Once, when I was overwhelmed with the stresses of life, he told me about his days in Mindoro. We'd plant the crops and pray and watch the calendar pages turn, hoping for rain and hoping they'd grow. But sometimes they didn't. But we'd still find a way to make it through. But even more than the things that he said, it's the things that he did quietly and steadfastly that shaped us. He was so faithful to the Lord. Church every Sunday, no matter where we were in the world or who was at our house. But he had a privateness about his faith. He reminded me of Matthew chapter 6, verse 3 through 4. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And your Father who sees you in secret will reward you. He was a man who took care of his things, his tools, his home, and his family. And he always showed up. He was the dad that picked us up from basketball practices and after school clubs. The dad at every single basketball game, even through chemo, even when coach stopped playing us. The dad with the camcorder at every one of Ata's musicals, recitals, and talent shows. The grandpa who would be there, ready to help at a moment's notice, whether it was to fix something, cook, or play, he'd show up. The steady presence in our lives. Dad was often the most medically complex person in a room. 2 kidney transplants, a heart attack, double bypass, cancer, and more. And it's not because he didn't take care of himself. Those were just the cards that he was dealt. When you need a new kidney at 27, the trajectory of your health is just different. And despite all the conditions that he was constantly battling, he never complained, and you'd never know it. He was always smiling, ready with the perfect dad joke. He faced it all with grace, optimism, and was always just concerned about us being okay. On the other hand, when I hurt my back from sneezing, I need Tylenol and a full day of rest. Nobody told me that being 30 was dangerous in of itself. And while today is a reflection and a meditation of my father, I want to take a moment to honor the anchor of his life, my mom. They say that the most important decision you'll ever make is the person you decide to marry. Mom, Dad made the best decision that he could ever make by choosing you. And you two choosing each other every single day for the last 40 years. Hopper, Ate, and I are so blessed to have you as a role model of love. If all love were stories, yours would be the most beautiful book of all. Soon after he passed, I began writing a letter to him. Dear Dad, Anna is due with our first at the end of November. We told you before the surgery, but we didn't have many details then. I wish we could have told you sooner. I know you prayed so much for us. After your first night in the hospital, Hopper went home to pick something up. He called Mom and was weeping as he said, I can't find it. He was looking for the prayer book that you gave him the first night he stayed in the hospital after being diagnosed with leukemia. The same booklet that your tata gave you for protection. But somehow, Mom helped him find it. And we prayed it for you. And the nurses made sure that it never left your hand. We said goodbye on a Sunday, although it was the most difficult day of my life. It was also the most beautiful. Everybody that could be there was there. Even though you weren't awake, we called the abueletas, and they said these beautiful goodbyes. Goodbye, Lolopogi from the Virginians. And Upsilon 76 from Migi. Then the Qs, the Envergas, the Malolos. Tito Oni yelled out Manong so loud that it made your heartbeat jump on the monitor. And then the Honolos, each one taking their time, praying, laughing, and crying. We gathered around you, we held hands, and we prayed, and we prayed, and we played you songs, and we sang to you. The Lord turned his face toward you and give you peace. I will remember every detail of that day for the rest of my life. Dad, the last moment we had alone together was about a month before you passed. We were in a quiet hospital room. I was writing the invocation for Isabel and Jairus' wedding. I was at a loss for words, but I thought about the best relationship I knew, you and Mom. And then I realized that all I wished for them was what I saw in both of you every single day. My wish for them was thousands of ordinary days compounded into something extraordinary. You didn't get to go to the wedding because you were at the hospital. I don't think I ever shared that with you. I wish I would have shared that with you. Because Dad, what I will miss most are the ordinary days, the Mondays on my walk home from playing basketball, where I'd FaceTime you and tell you that I still had it. And you'd guess which street I was in Madrid based on the buildings in the background. I will miss our car rides together, where you were completely comfortable sitting in silence, and I itched to fill the quiet with sound. I will miss you sitting in your chair, calling out, "Kain na," and having dinner together as a whole family. And I will miss going to your bed, going to your side of the bed, rubbing your feet, and giving you a kiss on the forehead as I said, "Hey, Daddy-o." But no one ever told me that I would have to mourn you twice. Once for the past memories, and another for the future that I had etched in my head that will never come to fruition. We had so many plans, Dad. Philippines in February, Mexico the May after that, another trip to Spain so that we could see Obaleta town in the north, meeting our child. I had so many questions about how to be a good dad. Were you as nervous as I am? Where did you have the courage? Where did you find the courage to let us fly? And I will miss just hearing your voice. I hope for the rest of my life that I never forget what that sounds like. Dad, I feel so many things. I feel a melancholy that I cannot shake. I feel disappointment in myself for never telling you all the things I should have told you. I feel like my hands will never be as skilled and able as yours. I feel shaken, realizing that I may mourn you for more years than we had together. But of all the emotions that I feel, the one I am most overwhelmed by is gratitude. I am grateful you held on long enough for me to fly home so I could hold your hand and kiss your forehead as I said goodbye. I asked you for time, and you fought for your life to give that to us. I'm grateful to the Abueletas that they came at the drop of a hat to be here with us. I am grateful to all of my titas for taking care of their big sister and taking care of the rest of our family. I hope that it brings you peace knowing that mom is taken care of and that she hasn't been alone. I am grateful that God picked angels to be your nurses those days. Dee, Anna, Jessica, Tatiana, Caleb. They took good care of you, Dad. We felt their love, and I will feel indebted to them for the rest of my days. And I am grateful to you as a coach, as a friend, and as my dad. So now, all that's left is to say goodbye. I once told you that if I were ever half the father that you were, then I'd live a life that I was proud of. You didn't say anything in response, but I hope those words sat with you. I hope you know how lucky I am to have you as a dad. How proud I am to be your son. How if I ever had the choice, I'd choose you 1,000 times over and over again in any lifetime. I choose you to be my dad. So, goodbye, Dad. God bless you. Check in from time to time. and rest easy knowing that we're taking care of Mom. We love you, and we will miss you endlessly.
I request the family members to come forward and sign the book. Sign their name.